For most of my life, wherever I have gone and whatever I have been engaged in, I've worked hard and diligently to build a healthy sense of community. Not only because I believe that such a healthy sense of community builds a healthy church, a healthy organization, a healthy place to live, but because on a personal note, that's where I get fed. It is in community, those large gatherings of face to face, wrap your arms around each other, roll up your sleeves, and get things done kind of community. Needless to say, since March, I've been on a great fast. And as I look at the future, it doesn't look very promising that my fast will end soon. That said, fasts are good. They can offer time of reflection, a time of prayer, a time of meditation. Last week, in the midst of my meditation, I was given a question. It was a rather bizarre, out of left field kind of question, and it's taken a few days to kind of sort it out. The question was this: is the church called to be community, or is the community called to be church? I warned you, it's a strange question. And before you get all separation in church and state britches in a twist, it has nothing to do with that. It's not about a unified belief or faith practice system. It's not about a moral code. It's more about how we envision those two entities and what we can learn from one to the other. For me, the image of church in community has always been from St. Paul, and that image is the body. A body made up of integral parts. Remove one, and the body doesn't function in the same way. If that is true, then can we envision community in that same way? That all the parts of the community are necessary, and that to remove or disparage one part is to affect the whole community. Some of you may have seen the post that I shared last week from the mother of all anthropologists, Margaret Mead, who was pressed with the question, what is the first sign of civilization? And her response was a broken and healed femur. And her rationale was that in every other species, such a broken femur would mean sure death. There would be no healing. They would be abandoned and left to die for the sake of the flock. Survival of the fittest. Survival of the whole. With a broken and healed femur, it meant that somebody sat with that person, took the time to be with them in the midst of the healing process, to enable them to survive and be healed. I found that image dramatically helpful, particularly in the time that we are living through. For we are surrounded by a lot of broken femurs. And they just didn't happen with COVID. They've been around for quite a while. The question before us, I think, is how do we sit with those who are broken and help them heal? Especially those we may not always agree with, but whose existence is integral for the sake of the whole community. As I said, it's nothing new with COVID. It's been around a long time. Over the course of the last 30 years, I have served on no less than 3 and chaired 1 renewal of downtown Clarion committees. And while they have all begun with great enthusiasm and excitement, they have all died without producing much effect. Because when push came to shove, they could not see their role as being building community and not just survival. It was all about the business and not about the community in which they were called to serve. We've seen that played out on the national stage these days. Politically, economically, socially, religiously. The divides are huge and growing deeper every day. We are the only country in the free world that has not been able to put together a unified response to COVID. We can't even agree whether to wear masks or not. We can't agree on anything, it seems. And as those divides grow deeper, so does the violence escalate. And we are seeing that throughout the nation these days. And while it is centered around racial issues right now, before long, it will incorporate most of our social fabric if we don't do something. One of the great challenges for me has been that all of the tools that I use to build community are unavailable to me in the midst of COVID. What I do best, I cannot do, which has been very frustrating. And so I want to put a challenge to you, an invitation. Before you make your next post on Facebook or whatever social media instrument you use, I want you to think of one thing that you can do as you sit amongst the broken femurs of this world to bring healing and a greater sense of community. One positive thing. And what I want you to do then is to post it. You can post it as a response to this post, or take some time and write your own. But one thing that you can and will do to help build community. I'll give you one that I have been utilizing lately. Discouraged by the increase of disparaging posts that come across my page, I've started to ask a single question before I make a post or share one. And that is, does it build up or does it tear down? If what I'm about to say or share builds up community, I post it. If not, I delete it or hide it. It's a simple thing. Most people don't even know what's happening, but I do. I will not further the divide. So one thing, amongst all the broken femurs around you, whether it's in your family, in your community, in your church, in your organization, at your workplace, one thing that you can do that will bring a greater sense of community and healing. I thank you in advance.